Success in this current market all depends on your ability to stay connected with your customers. So today, this whole episode of Blink, the number one podcast somewhere between New Zealand and Australia, is dedicated to the 8 best ways that you need to be staying connected to your customers. Hello again and welcome to episode 9, season 2 of the Blink podcast. Today, a very exciting episode. It's all customer centric. They are so important to every business right now. They are proving a little bit harder to deal with. They are requiring a little bit of extra work and a bit more of a hug than previously. So today, we're dedicating this whole episode to the 8 things you need to be doing in order to stay connected with your customers. And of course, I'm going to bring in my very best co-host, Darren Pratley. You missed the last episode, but we're very happy to have you back, mate.
Apologies for not being here, mate, but I'm really looking forward to this topic today. This is right up my street, this one.
Yeah, I think customers are, and it's not just new customers. I think sometimes people can get focused on just new customers. I need to churn more customers. But you know what? The pot of gold, what you need to survive, if you're good enough, is most probably and most likely in the customers you're already connected to.
So we know that this topic, when you say this to most businesses, every business will say to you, "Oh, Darren, you're so right. It's so important for us to be looking after our existing customers, not our new." But then you dig and scratch down into the business a little bit and you go, actually, how much are you looking after your past customers and what are you doing to stay connected with them? And there's just this massive disconnect, right? Because we all know that's what you should be doing, but we all get caught up with well, I need to make another sale to pay the bill. And we get caught up in a situation where, well, hold on, dealing with those customers that have already purchased from us, we'll be in a situation where we're probably dealing with someone who doesn't need our service right now. So it becomes this idea that we're just going to go hunting again for new opportunities when this is where we need to spend some time.
So what's the perfect balance? Because I don't think businesses, people listening out there has to be a balance of new and old. Because I think the reality of life is some customers, no matter what you're in, become exhausted. And if we're talking about finance, so mortgage brokerage, real estate, cars, employment, they can be a long life cycle between interactions and purchases. So I presume there's a balance. Is there a magic number? Is it 70-30, 50-50? What are we talking?
Well, I always base it on age of business, right? So if you've been in the industry, in an industry sector for a period of time, and let's say it's a longer period of time, you should be developing a good level of business off your existing client base because you've done a great job, you've built the connection, and because of that, you should be either doing more business with those same customers or those customers are providing you referrals for new opportunities. But if you're in the early stages of setting up your business, and let's say you're only a year or two in, then most of it is going to be turning over the ground to hunting for new opportunities and maybe the first time you meet clients. So, but again, once you've met them and you've got that connection, how important is it going to be then to keep that connection going with your customers into the future? So, I mean, to me, this is a topic that I'm just passionate about when I'm working with businesses because I can see so much gold in their businesses in relation to this, but not always spending enough time on it.
Why is it that you think that businesses forget about the customers that have paid the bills? I mean, that's the thing. If you find someone, particularly in these times, because I think we're heading into an era of the unpaid invoice. You can see it happening already. That the prompt payers are stretching it out a little bit at the moment. They're trying to buy some time, and I think we're heading into that era. So if you've got someone who is a good payer, wouldn't you just want to give them a cuddle and keep them close?
Totally. But even just clients who want to do the transaction and want to purchase or want to go ahead and do whatever they're still doing in challenging times, they're actually good customers for us to, realize why they're still doing well and wanting to do what they're doing, but then also keeping in touch with them into the future, right?
Yeah. And I think it gets to our first point. Before we get into the list of 8, it was a list of 7, and then we came up with a bonus one, so we had to change it to 8.
Well,
Eight's the
that
magic
number
number.
8 jumped up and hit us in the forehead, really, didn't it?
It did, it did a little bit, but we're not going to give the list away too early, just for those who want to be in on the in joke. Is that Darren and I made a list, and we probably missed the number one most important way of connecting with your customer.
We'll
But
talk
we'll
about
get to
when
that
we get there.
when we'll touch it. But anyway, that was all a little bit. We had a bit of fun off camera about that, so that was good. So I think the first thing that we have to touch on here, 8 ways to connect with your customer, is who actually is your customer first. Like, I think that's a really important step. Like, work it out.
Like, just get a pen and paper out and just write down all of the key customers that would be the best for your particular business. Who would they be? You know, if you're in real estate, your target market, your target area will be obviously very geographic, right?
Mm,
Or for some people in some industries, you know, you might be able to deal out of state or out of region, right? So
mm.
the ability for you to start defining exactly who your best customers are and getting some parameters around that actually starts to make this job a lot easier. But a lot of people don't. They just think that everybody is their customer. But you've actually got to start becoming quite specific about who is the ideal customer for me and where are they?
Yeah, I think I was watching a video last night by Jordan Peterson. You know,
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson, the controversial. I don't think he's controversial at all. I think he just hits the nail on the head. So that's probably controversial in its own statement, to be honest. But um, he was talking the other day. He was talking in a video last night that you've got to be prepared to be disliked. And the
Yeah.
moment you're prepared to be disliked by someone, you're going to be more attractive to someone else. And I think that's what we suffer from in the industry at the moment, is that social media can be such a burner. Like, you can make one comment, and if you trip over the wrong person, you can cop it back in spades. But you've got
Yeah.
to be able to stand by your convictions, because any of us who have been on social media for any amount of time now, 1 or 2 years, we understand that there's just these people who are in pain out there, and they just like to hammer anyone that seems to be doing something different. So if you're going to the market, it's the same. Like, social media is just a magnifying glass on humanity. If you're going out there and trying to be everything to everyone, you're going to be nothing to no one.
But that's what number one's about, right? It's just
Yeah, that's right.
identifying who actually is your customers and
Mm-hmm.
realizing not all customers are great customers. And as soon as you start understanding that, boy, it starts to get you to sharpen your marketing department, it sharpens your sales department, it sharpens your databasing, and it sharpens a whole lot of stuff in your business just when you start to realize that these are the group of people. I mean, I had a client the other day, they were talking about their target market, and I was going, well, if that's your particular target market, is the way we're talking to that group of people actually appropriate? Is it the messages we need to be getting them right now? Because I got a sneaking suspicion that this is a very much a two-tier economy that you've got in your side of the ditch, and we've definitely got here. There is a group of people in New Zealand and I think in Australia that's still doing fantastically well and still got money to spend, whereas we've got a big group of people in that mid to lower end that are actually finding with inflation and the pressures that are going on, actually really struggling, right? So just getting a real plan and understanding of who is my target market and where does my demographic fit starts to be able to sharpen up our comms in our business very quickly.
Yeah, I think that's 100% correct. And I don't think people are good enough at it.
No, well, it's just this idea, and you see that before, like us all trying to be all things to everybody and making everybody happy. Well, yep, that's great. But on the other side of the coin, when it comes to business, we actually want to define who we're targeting and who are the people that are most likely going to be purchasing our product or using our service, and then becoming very clear about how we communicate to them. So, yeah, target market and deciding on who is your target market is key.
Yeah, and I think, you talked about, geographical boundaries and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, if you're in the service and consulting industry now, the boundaries are really, really reduced. Like, there's so much technology around now for you to be able to do service and consulting into any country, to any business in any in any business in any country in the world.
Totally.
Like, you can just ring them up and do this. And
So, so,
that's it.
so, so when people say to me, "Oh, Darren, I'm not sure who to talk to. I'm struggling. I don't know. I don't know what I should do. I don't know who." I just go, "Come on! Like this world now, using these type of technologies allows you to go anywhere in the world, talk
Mm,
to anybody you want. You
yeah,
just have to create the connection."
that's it. So once you work out that who they are, the next step is what do you do, or what is it that they find valuable? What is it that they're being challenged with? I talk about it in storytelling all the time. Yeah, what's their problem driven by the desire to fix it? And then that's
Yep.
where your story starts. And I think that's the same with business and marketing. What's their problem? What are they
Yep.
challenged with? And how is it that you're best positioned to fix it?
That's it. And even your ability to be able to identify the problems that they've got that they're not even aware of. Right?
Yeah.
So the ability for you to be able to know your product or your service really well and to be able to go to the market and say, look, we're seeing people quite often in these situations that are having these challenges. Just by making those statements allows you to define a group of people that you can talk to directly and again show the value in your service of why I would deal with you. And I just think, right now, the definition of your value and your service to your target market is just critical, right? There's no point spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on marketing and branding when you're talking to a whole marketplace, when at the end of the day, right now, probably only 20 or 30% of your marketplace can afford to use your service.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm talking to some businesses where they're looking at taking almost $1 to $1.5 million out of their operating budgets or their expenditures on advertising and things like that. It's like, well, you know what? If you just tightened your market, if you just tightened who your actual client is, then you've got that saving because you're not wasting money on people who aren't coming anyway.
Oh
So
my
that's a
God, that there is just a piece of genius, mate, because that there is what a lot of businesses right now are not doing. And I mean, I've got one business at the moment, they'd be spending, I don't know, probably $6,000 to $7,000 a month on radio advertising, for example, right? So the challenge with that is we're going, well, how much we do some analysis and actually go, how much are we actually getting out of that? And what is the group of people that we're talking to? How much of a message can we get across in 30 seconds? We actually realized that actually we need to reduce our spend and start targeting it and using other ways that we get a longer than 30-second burn. So it's been very, very interesting to see how you actually show and communicate that value.
I would have thought radio in New Zealand was a pretty captive audience because there's
Yep.
only one radio station, isn't there?
No, no, no. Actually, Jonathan, we've got quite a few others, and the challenge is which one to pick because some of them have only got 37 people watching it or listening to it. So
Sorry,
you
my
got to.
friends in New Zealand. Yeah, it's just a little bit of I've got to keep this light-hearted. This is valuetainment, is what they call this. We've got to have a bit of fun in it as well.
Wah wah wah. On
So
you
number
go.
three, is there a level of trust? Do you have a level of trust with your customer? Was the experience that they had with you, was it a good one? Was it a bad one? Are you providing them and solving these problems ongoing so that they do trust you? Because you look at it, yeah, and I think it's massive in real estate, right? Is that you get these transactional agents who are just wanting to sell, 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 but the hills of gold are actually maintaining the relationship to a greater number who aren't
Yep.
quite in the real estate circle just now, but at some point they will be. And when they are, you want them to come to you, and it's an inbound lead, and it's one of the easiest things you can do.
100%. But this is the piece, right? If at the end of a transaction, the customer doesn't feel they trust you, you're toast. Right,
Mm.
because if you're doing a piece of business with a particular client and they don't feel at the end of it that you did that transaction for their best interest, and now that they've got somebody that they can ring, talk to, ask questions to, and know you're going to give them the best possible advice, you're toast
Mm-hmm.
because it's that level of trust that holds and means that every time you do a communication or a conversation with that particular customer, that they'll actually go, do you know what? You looked after me last time. You told me the right things to do, so I'll actually keep listening to you because you're actually looking after my best interest, and that's what trust is all about.
But you're not going to win everyone.
No, you're not
You
going to
should be
win
stri- You should be
everybody,
stri- You
but
should
you
be.
should you should
You
be
should strive
from a
for it.
trust. Yeah, from a trust perspective, I believe you almost should, because actually, if you're in the transaction for the best interest of your customer and not your own, you will build a level of trust, right? You will build a level of the customer knowing that actually, even though you didn't do a transaction, you still are going to look after that customer into the future. Well, actually, isn't that what we want? Don't we want a database of people that trust us, listen to us, and when they need our service will use us?
I think so, but I mean, if I go back to the online program course world that I used to be in, I've got two versions of the course: one where you can do it yourself, and one where you do it with me, which
Yep.
pays more. And I've had, I don't know, I've at least had one lady from overseas who went through the pay to do it yourself part of the program, and she went through the whole thing and got to the end and goes, "Oh, this wasn't what I was looking for."
Yep.
And I'm sort of like, well, I didn't even know that you were doing it because those transactions just happen automatically and it was all automated. And, there isn't the ability for you to reach out if you're having problems, we can help you. Um, so I'm not going to retarget her. She'd be the biggest headache in my world.
What do you want me to
No?
say now?
Well, I'm just like saying, I was saying, should you be looking for trust from it? Yeah, not everyone's going to trust you because sometimes they don't know. The customer's not always right. They don't always know what they want. And
No,
sometimes
no, no. You're right. That's exactly true. But it's your job as the service provider to be able to provide your expertise into helping them, so that they do feel that the information you're giving them is trusted advice, or is they can rely on, or they can trust that information, and that wasn't about you, your fee, your video, or
yeah,
whatever. So my view in those situations is, look, here's a copy of the other version. It's no charge, because at the end of the day, I want to be able to make sure that we get you what you were looking for. Now, at the end of the day, the customer knows, hey, whatever Jonathan puts out, then there's a level of trust there that if it's not, or it's I don't understand it, or there's some, I need some more help, then you've got somebody there that they can rely on and trust to sort out that situation. And that's why I always say to companies now is it's not about the transaction anymore. It's about our ability to hold the relationship. It's to build the trust, so that we do one deal today, we're going to do, a deal every year going forward. And that's so important. Think about this. Think about this. People say the financial services is a good one for me, right? Because people come into financial services and they go, look, I want to sell the person a mortgage, or want to sell them into an insurance package. And I go, yep, that's great. But in a year's time, how much has changed in that client's life? And you go, well, I wouldn't have a clue. So wouldn't it be an absolute opportunity for us to go back and connect with that customer in a year's time, go, hey, I just wanted to give you a call, see how things are going, what's happening, and just make sure what we put in place for you a year ago is still relevant. Now,
mm,
9 times out of 10, it will be, right? But as the customer hangs up the phone from that call, what are they thinking? God, that bloody Jonathan, he's a bloody great guy. He set us up with a great facility. And a year later, he's connecting with us to make sure everything's going great. If
yeah.
you keep doing that for 25 years, guess what happens? They are never going to go anywhere else other than stay with you. But it's that ability to have that, build that trust over time. Because after 10 years of consistent calling, they trust you with everything that they'll do whatever you tell them to do, because they know everything that you tell them is in their best interest. So financial
Especially,
services is a good one.
especially if you remain consistent in the one industry,
Yes. Ah.
right?
Oh.
So that's where it comes from. So there's a hold on, did we go? Yeah, did we go to the list? No, that's right. Um, Gee, you're throwing me there with your funny faces. For those listening on the podcast, Darren's getting all excited about something. We've struck a vein. But there is a local accountant here near me who I was speaking to the other day um, at an event, and he was saying that his business sort of slowed a little bit. COVID threw people around. They started thinking more about their future, changing jobs, all that sort of stuff. Where are they financially? What can they afford to do and change? And so he introduced doing just financial positioning health checks.
Yeah, love it.
And so he's
Very
just
good.
ringing his client base, He's actually hired a guy who's also an accountant who now just rings and says, "Hey, it's Steve from so and so accountants. Just checking where you're at. You feeling good? Do you feel like you got enough for your super? What are your plans moving forward?" And then there's no sell on that at all, unless the customer asks for it. It says, "I'm not happy. What can you offer?"
Yeah.
It's fantastic,
Yeah.
and it's so
Yeah.
simple.
And that there is about building trust with your customer, right?
Mm-hmm. So that's
Love
it,
it.
guys. That's the end of the episode, and we're not even going to do the list because we've covered everything today. we've reached
That's
the
very clever.
peak. We've reached the peak. All right, and so the last thing before we get into the magic list, and the list is a little bit controversial, but it's magic, and you need to hang around for it. So the last thing is initial connection. So this is, what is your initial connection? How did you initially connect with this customer? Because it dictates how you should be connecting with them in the future and how it's relevant for you, or how relevant are you to them in regards to the scenario now after the initial connection, right?
Yep. And also your ability to be consistent after that initial connection, right? Because everyone goes, oh, okay, Darren, yes, all right, we'll listen to Pancho and we'll improve our cold calling ability and we'll start making more cold calls, right? Which is great. So you make the initial connection, but actually the bit that comes after that is their ability to be consistent with the follow up, right? So that's the bit where, how are you making your initial connections? So there's lots of ways that we can do that, but then making sure we've got consistency of follow up, because that's what helps us really build those initial connections or those initial client interactions into actual long-term customers.
And I think this is really interesting because when we get into the list, we're listing 8 different ways that you can stay connected.
Yeah.
So let's have a look at this rule. Let's say, and this is happening a lot at the moment, and I've sort of touched on this a little bit with Pancho when we had him on, but I think we actually cut it out of the episode because it was off topic. But it was about LinkedIn. And LinkedIn at the moment is driving me mad because as soon as you connect with someone, they put you on their email database. And then all of a sudden you're getting emails from all these people who
Yep.
you're sort of interested in and you just wanted to sort of feel them out a little bit. But all of a sudden they're invading your inbox, usually at volume, and it
Yep.
drives me mad. And it's the fastest way to get disconnected from me across all points. So
Yep.
there has to be a level of respect in regards to your connection. Now, I
Yeah,
also
totally.
understand from a marketing point of view.
So the consistency might be annually.
Yes. But if you look at modern marketing sort of strategies and theories at the moment, it's like get as many different touch points as you can, which I sort of resist a little bit because I want the customer to control the touch points, not for someone to push themselves on top of me. And I
Yep.
used to do that show during COVID, Don't F with me Fridays. And I used to go through all the annoying things that people used to do on LinkedIn on a Friday. And it's
Yep.
amazing how people think just because you accept a connection that they can then invade your life. And so when you're
Totally.
doing this stuff, how you met initially is really important. But then how you grow that relationship to lead to other connections in other ways, you have to be really strategic about it because it's
Yep.
delicate, especially in the early days. It's really, really delicate. Of course, once you've done a transaction, then you've probably got their phone number, you've probably got their email, you've probably got all that, and let's say, perfect world, you've done a great job. So they like you. So they're going to be more open to receiving
Yep.
information from you as long as it's valuable. But don't jump in
Nice.
too early. There's got to be a bit of romance in the relationship. We're not just jumping straight to home base.
No.
Have a little bit of romance, have a little bit of respect, and make sure everything you send someone's way is relevant to their life and the problems that they're facing.
Which is number 2 that we covered. Brilliant. Love it.
Oh, it's full circle here on the Blink podcast. We always circle back.
Well, I just go look at those 4 points. If you put those 4 points with your ability to connect with your customer, that gives you the framework of actually building a really great connection and building long-term business. So I think that's gold. Real
Run
gold.
through
Now,
the
but
list.
what's the practical? Let's do the practical now.
No,
What are
run
the
through the
things that we can do?
Run through the list for the good folk listening. Come on.
So, number one target market
Who are they?
is our ability is to make who are the people that we're wanting to deal with and actually start realizing that we've got to define who we want as customers. Number two is understand the value of your product in their world, not in your world. So as a customer, why would I be interested in your particular topic? What are the issues? What are the challenges they have that your product or service would solve? And that gives us a really great way of connecting. Number three is trust and building a level of trust, because unless they trust you, whatever you say isn't going to be believed or liked or acted on. So we're going to build that level of trust. And then lastly, just understand what's the difference between that initial connection when you first make contact with the person and then your ability to build consistency of connection or frequency into the future. So that really helps us define and connect with our customer.
If you do that, folks, if you follow those 4 steps alone and don't even listen to the magic list we're about to put on you, you're going to be miles in front. Like
Massive
people run. It's incredible. People run quite successful businesses without ever doing those 4 steps. Right?
Yes,
it's crazy.
Totally.
Like I've walked into businesses that I'm like, oh man, these are really successful. I'm going to my work. I have to be up on my toes for this one and dancing around and whatever. And you sit in there and you go, what do you mean you don't know who your customer is? What do you mean you haven't profiled them? What do you mean like you haven't tried to isolate them and segment them and you work your communications out so that they're tailored to each group to maximize your returns? Oh no, we throw an ad on a bus and people come in. And you're like, okay, well, hold on to your hats because we're about to launch a rocket ship here. And it works. It works. So anyway, let's get into the magic list. 8 ways to connect to your customer. This list was originally 7 ways to connect to your customer plus 1 bonus, but we changed it to 8 because it was too complicated or too long. So 7 ways to connect. 8 ways to connect to your customer. Starting with number 1, Darren, your favorite.
Get face to face, right?
Face to face.
And this is the part right now, especially in these economic climates, you've got a lot of people that are hiding behind emails, posts, newsletters, all of the bollocks, where actually what you need to be doing is getting out into the marketplace, sitting in front of the person and going, how you going? What's happening? What are your challenges? What's the things that are really causing you the most grief at the moment? And let's just start thinking about how my service or our product can help solve those. And regardless of what industry you're in, that piece right now, that face-to-face is just so important. I mean, everybody's struggling out there. There's a whole lot of, after COVID and business not going and economic climate and all of that. So actually getting us back to getting that face-to-face piece going again is just critical.
Humans are weird, aren't they? Like we're weird. So during COVID, all I ever heard is I can't run my business unless I can get in front of my customer. I can't do it. I can't be a professional speaker unless I'm in front of my customer. I can't be a trainer unless I'm in front of my customer. Well, now you're allowed, and everyone's like, oh no.
How about going back? How about going back there?
Everyone's like, oh no, I can't get in front of my customer. I can't get in front of my customer. And oh no, that's too much to ask. I don't know if they want to take the time out. That'll take 2 hours out of my day going outside in the beautiful sunshine. It is amazing, right? Yeah. It is amazing how the human mind has got that negative bias, right? It's always trying to find the bad news. And Darren's lucky enough to be someone that doesn't really suffer from negative bias. But I tell you what, it is a pandemic in itself, I think, at times. Now, for those who are astute listeners, like our premium audience here, if you remember back to the 7-minute mark of this episode, we said that we'd missed one off the list that was actually face-to-face, the number 1 on top of the list. And we'd left it off the original list, which is what made it go from 7 to 8. So I think we left it off the list, Darren, because it's our default. You're just going to do it. It doesn't even need to be said. That's our story, and we're sticking to it anyway.
Well, at the way this market is right now, mate, the amount of businesses that I'm seeing that are forgetting the concept of face-to-face is so important. I'm like, bloody hell, come on.
Even the experts, so-called experts, are forgetting about the face-to-face. Oh, I can't stop laughing at you. You're going to have to take over. I'm sorry, folks. All right. I'm Wim Hofing my way back
Number
to
two.
the show. Number 2, the phone. Get on the phone. I get shivers, nightmares. The phone.
Do you know what someone said to me the other day? Someone said to me the other day, this is crazy. They said, Darren, I just don't know whether the customer wants to hear from me.
Fair point. I agree.
Right?
Let's not interrupt.
And I just said, well, why don't you ring them and find out? Like, this is the crazy part about it. Why don't you just give them a call and see where they're at and how they're going? Don't ask them about your product. Just actually make the call. And they were like, oh, good point. And like here we were giving themselves a whole lot of reasons why will they want to, or well, I don't know. But just get on the phone and ask them. They'll soon tell you.
I think what's really interesting, and I got sent a video after we posted Pancho's video on LinkedIn. Someone sent me a video about cold calling and introduced me to this YouTube channel. And the guy made a really good point. He said, the majority of people are polite and respectful.
Yeah.
They're not sitting there at the other end of their phone waiting for someone to cold call them so they can rip strips off them and give them a hard time.
No, not at all.
That's not how the world is. Like, you might get the odd one here and there, but you have to connect your emotions to the call.
Totally.
And just make the call. Which is great advice that I need to follow myself at times. Because I agree with whoever you were talking to. It might just be a bad time to call, Darren. You don't want to be.
Well, why don't you ring them and find out?
Yes. We need that on a T-shirt. Ring them and find out. Cold call 101. Ring them and find out. All right, number 3. This is my number 1, but we decided that
this is your favorite.
This is
your favorite. Yeah.
Video is a great way to connect with your customer and stay connected with your customer, particularly live video. I don't do anywhere near enough Facebook Lives at the moment, but when I get them up and going, you can guarantee that I will have previous customers coming into the chat and adding to the conversation. You get to address them live on video or even in recorded videos. Even in pre-recorded videos that you post, they're seeing you and observing you and consuming your knowledge to help those problems that we spoke about. You're delivering value, and guess what? You're doing it at scale.
Yep, love it.
So you're actually, rather than having, face-to-face, as good as it is, it's still one-to-one. So it is a little bit restricted, and if you're busy, it can be hard. But video, you can still stay in people's worlds. The connection isn't as deep. I'll give you that. The connection is not as deep. I'll concede. But I think the benefits of being able to do it at scale brings it back up to almost an equal.
The thing and this is a bit you and I have conversations about, all the time, is when you look at the amount of content now that has been created in that video format, like your ability now to, number one, have a good, clear message and be able to be relevant to your market that you're talking to. But also now it's actually about the volume of being able to create the consistency, isn't it, of that messaging and that information for your target market. And I think, video now is a great way of creating that, either initial connections or a follow-up connection, but it's certainly such an important part of business today that you just got to take it on board.
Well, if you look at Novak Properties,
good example.
Good friends up in Sydney. 1,000 episodes of a breakfast show called Morning Minutes that they streamed live every morning.
Yep.
1,000
Very cool.
Episodes. They only missed 3 in the 1,000.
So good.
3 episodes they missed. Now,
so good.
I said to Mark, I said, how much business do you think this show brought you? And he goes, I don't know, but I know it brought me. I know that my business is way better off than it used to be.
Just creating the video, mate. Just creating the video. Just being able to connect with your marketplace using the video format. Brilliant. Yep, love it.
But he's even gone to the point where he's got a second phone that sits in a cradle on his windscreen because he makes the show while he drives to work.
Yep.
But he doesn't touch the phone because he uses StreamYard or one of the others so that the person at the other end, so the guest actually sets up the show,
Yeah.
and then they just chat for 15 minutes.
So
And
good.
so, you know, he's making use of the time when he's stuck in Sydney traffic to
Yep.
actually connect with his customer. And because it's 7:45 every morning, they get into a habit and a pattern, and they're like, oh, I'm going to go see what Mark's talking about today. Oh, yes, that was great advice. Oh, that topic today wasn't quite up my alley, but the last 3 days were. So trust,
Yep.
relationship, trust.
Consistency.
And then when he gives them the phone call, guess what they say? I saw
Like
your
they know you.
video. I saw your video the other day about this. I really agree with it. I've got an agent up in the Newcastle area. Same thing. He's going through
Love
the
it.
cold calls are no longer cold when you use video.
Love it.
Warms them up.
Give you just a quick hint on that one too, mate. I've been encouraging agents who, let's say you've been asked to go and do an appraisal on a property, is
Mm-hmm.
to actually send the customer a small video before you actually get there. So you do a quick brief introduction for the agent. And you do a quick intro into your experience and also the information that the customer needs to have with them before you get there. So by creating that video and sending it to the customer beforehand, by the time you knock on the door and they welcome you into the house, they feel like they already know you. So
Mm.
it's another good way of using video to connect to your audience.
And also, I think that's a great idea for removing fear of the unknown.
Totally.
Like
Great.
if you're there to sell your house, it's a big decision. And all of a sudden, you're calling three strangers
Yep.
to your door, and you're not sure which one to go with. Right?
Yep.
Remove that fear of the unknown. Be
So good.
known to them before you even get to the front door.
Yeah. Simple to do. Technology these days, piece of cake.
That's
Love it.
it. Number four is messaging. Any sort of electronic data messaging. So this is on Messenger, this is text message, this is just reaching
LinkedIn.
out.
Yep.
LinkedIn, LinkedIn drives me mad, some of the messaging on there. I don't need your digital agency help and all the other things that you try and offer me. But messaging, drop someone a message because
Yep.
they can choose when they look at it.
Yep.
And it's kind of nice because it's personal and it takes you no
Yep.
time at all to do it.
You got it.
But
Love it.
don't hire other people to do your messaging.
I think we probably should put the word personal in front of that, right? So that it becomes personal messaging because you did right. It's got to be from you and it's got to be able to be relevant to where you've had conversations with the customer in the past. And, you know, if it's just a catch up or it's just a check in or it's just want to see how you are, those sort of messages on those electronic mediums is actually a really great way for everyone who's so busy. That's just kind of a really easy and convenient way of communicating. So yeah, I just use it where you can. The closer the client is, to be honest, the better result you get. But again, just developing those relationships it's a great tool.
Well, those messages can almost always lead to A, a phone call, B, a face to face.
Yep. 100%.
And the way that the algorithms work now, and some people don't understand this, I'm going to share a little secret here, Darren. Particularly in the Facebook environment, if you interact with someone on Messenger, which is a Facebook app, the algorithm will then, in the next 24 hours, if you create content, send that content into their feed.
Love it.
To understand that as a strategy.
Yeah. Easy to
So
do,
here
right?
I am reaching out to former clients, knowing that they've got a problem. Hey, how you going? Is the message. But the video that I make solves the problem that they're most in pain about.
Yeah,
So then
love
they
it.
get it and they go, oh, hold on a minute. This guy understands exactly what we're going through now. I've shared a
So
strategy.
I hope our audience just got that, right? Because a strategy that you can use to help build greater connection with your customers. But most people are missing these easy components that they can add into their business that don't take very long, and two are really effective. So it's just about learning those simple tools. So I hope those that are listening to this can actually take that particular one and make it part of your business, because personally I know I use it and I know it works. You are 100% right there, mate. Very, very good.
Number 5, Darren.
Email newsletters. So my pet hate, my pet peeve but actually quite an important component, right? So this is what I see all the time. Lots of email newsletters going out, and basically they're telling the audience pretty much what the audience already knows. And I see this, and I'll give you a good example. Real estate is a good one for this, right? So you'll get a piece of correspondence will come out by the real estate data producers. So they'll come out and say the market's changed by this amount. There's this many sales. This is the average price, and they'll put that data and information out in the news feeds, right? Then I get real estate agents who then take that information in 2 weeks after it was published, they now send it out as a newsletter. Well, for me as a customer, as soon as I receive that, I already seen this information 2 weeks ago, and it actually makes me feel like actually you're not relevant and you're not current. So one of the things that I say with people about these email newsletters is it's got to be immediate, it's got to be real today, and also it's got to be stuff that I won't or don't know. And it doesn't have to be about a sale. So what you're starting to do again is give some written information, which can include a video that actually is really relevant to your audience's situations right now, and it gives them some points of difference that they can start to mull over and think about where they're going in the future with whatever the decision they need to make.
I think your beef with this is very similar to my beef around interest rate rises.
Yep. Yep.
Whenever the Reserve Bank of Australia raises interest rates, activity on Facebook from real estate agents also goes up.
400. Yep.
Right?
Yep. 400 messages saying, guess what?
The Reserve Bank's raised interest rates by 0.25%. I was like, yeah, I know. I read the news.
I've already heard it.
And then you get 100 more of them, and you're like, can't you add more to it than that?
Like, so tell me what that means. What does it mean?
Translate it into real world scenarios in your patch, because
that is the secret of good newsletters. You got it. Absolutely.
All right, number 6. This is a sneaky one. This is a little sneaky one. In the comments.
Yeah.
In the comments. And I'm going to give a shout out to Andy Reid here, because it was a post that he made the other day that sort of triggered me and got me thinking about this. I knew about it, but he's brought it back. Here's the thing. When people go to the effort of making content, putting out value, doing the effort, even posting about their kids, their family, their life, they're still looking for validation. They're still looking for it to resonate with people. Now, if your clients are doing this, go and leave a comment. Don't just like it. Yep. It's too easy just to click and like it. That's a low rent investment in your client. Leave a comment that's actually shown that you've consumed it. So, an annoying thing today on LinkedIn that happened is that I posted a clip out of our podcast, and this person that we're a shared connection with, Darren, they'll remain nameless, left a comment on the clip. And it was like, hey, and it sort of reviewed through the video, but the English wasn't quite right or something. It was like, oh, maybe this is legit, not sure. Then I went to another shared contact of ours. In the next post in the feed was them posting a video, and then the same person had commented on their video, and the wording was almost like for like. It was like maybe AI was doing it. I'm not sure, but I can tell you right now, it gave me the ick, because it's like, no, I'm pretty sure this isn't genuine. They're trying to cheat the system. Maybe they've got someone somewhere else in the world doing this for them. Yeah. Right. Maybe they've got a robot doing it. We know that Telstra, the big phone company here that's catch cry at the moment, is bringing humans closer together, put out a press release last week written by ChatGPT, and we caught them out. And so we did I'll put my hand up. Maybe I rang Talkback Radio and pointed out that ChatGPT had written their press release, and they're trying to get human to human. But this is the thing. Get in the messages and be human.
Love it.
Because they'll appreciate you, and then they'll also, as I mentioned before, get more of your content sent your way, because there's more activity in your relationship.
Love it. Gold.
All right. Number 7. I love this one. And I saw the look on your face when I said this one. Events. Now, you and I both had a different little spin on this. My favorite thing to do is going to school fairs, school fetes, the local church event, church fetes. I'm not a church going person, but they sell nice plants at church fetes and they have great scones and jam. And I know, or local sporting club events, I know that all of those things there's going to be a real estate agent,
Yep.
guaranteed,
Yep.
hands down. If I go to a dad's, the school event where it's just for dads, beef and burgundy or whatever they do, I know there's going
Yep.
to be real estate agents in there, and those real estate agents are going to be wanting to meet everyone to try and get the listings. But you know what? The hunter becomes the hunted. That's what I do. I go in there, I'm like, right, yeah, you're coming to me, but guess what? I'm going to flip it on you, bruv. You don't even see me coming, and you're going to be like thinking you're going to sell my house, and
Oh,
no, I'm going to sell you how to make
oh, you're a
videos and stuff.
sneaky Arab. You're a sneaky. So you're using events as a way of building those connections. That's great. That's all good.
But
I
there are
think it's a
people
good.
there. They're people.
Yeah,
So it's
totally.
probably face to face, really. It
And
ties
it's
into the
face to
face to face.
face. Yeah, good. No,
But
I
it's
love it.
not that intimate face to face. It's a little less formal, so it can work a bit better.
Yep.
Now,
But
the
it's in
other,
a setting where you can create an initial connection and then develop an ongoing connection if you're regularly meeting that person at those type of events. So yeah, absolutely see how you can do that. That's effective.
don't be the full pest, though. Just get their
No.
number, so then you have a
Yeah,
phone
yeah, yeah,
call, and then
totally.
you organise the face to face. These things all
Love
work
it.
together. But your play on that, on events, was actual industry events.
Totally. So go start looking at industry events or where your targeted market meet. So if you target a specific group of clients or a specific type of businesses, work out where those businesses go to conference or work out where those businesses go and share ideas or even create an event where those groups can share ideas. And I've seen that a number of times where you get someone who wants to bring together a whole group of people that can have conversations about an industry sector. Well, all of a sudden that person starts to become the industry expert by bringing the people together. So by creating those events. So yeah, I think this whole area of events is a really, really important one. And just take this one moment right now as you're listening to this. Have a think in your business over the last 6 months. How many practical events have you A, organized, and B, how many people have you invited to actually attend them? And I talk to this to some businesses, and you know what their answer is to both of those questions? 0 and 0. We haven't organized any events, Darren, and we've invited no one, right? Well, actually, for us to be able to connect with our customers, creating these events that they're actually interested in coming to is a real simple way for us to be adding value to that connection.
And 2 years ago, what was everyone crying about?
Yeah.
Can't
Yeah.
run
Oh
events.
my goodness.
Can't invite anyone anywhere. Can't do
Oh,
anything. Well,
totally.
now they're back. Now, here's a question for you. Would you go as far as buying a ticket to a conference
Yes.
just to network?
Yes. Yes. Of course. If that's your industry sector that you want to work with, why wouldn't you want to be in the room and listen to their challenges, issues, problems, and solutions and seeing how your product fits within that? I mean, that would be a huge opportunity.
So start event shopping. Find the ones and go to them.
Totally.
Mm,
Totally.
mm, mm, mm. Very good. And now we move on to number 8, the final one in the list. And of course, this is the bonus one. And it is one of your favorite. You love this one. You love this one, Darren. And for those who are long listeners to the show, we haven't touched on this topic for a while, but always around Christmas this one comes up. Mail outs. You love your mail outs.
And the reason why I do is because it's a point of difference. It gets on their desk and it actually shows not only a message, it also can show quality. And the reason why I do it is because I can get my messages that I want across to my target market effectively in that way. It is different to what everyone else does. So for me, it's a real point of difference. But I just look at nowadays, most of the time what you're getting out of your mailbox is either local circulars or advertising or bills, right? So the ability to create some content that people can get in that format while it's still available and not priced out of opportunity market. But I think the piece here for me is using this type of format to stay connected with your customer in an area where you've got their mail details, is to be able to put something in their letterbox. I think is still valid.
Yeah, the letterbox is it's really good news. The letterbox nowadays, you head
Yep.
to the letterbox. It's really good news. And if it's bad news, it gets followed up with a text message to say,
Yep.
"Here's more bad news. You didn't pay the last bill. You need to. We've just sent
You
you
need
a
to get
new
onto
one, and
this
you
one.
haven't paid the last one." It's
Yep.
really good news. The letterbox, and yeah, I don't know. I love what you do in regards to mail outs, and I think the important piece you mentioned is quality.
Well, that's the piece, right? If we put good stuff in it and it makes an impression of quality, my customers who don't get this from anyone else actually goes, this is actually valuable to my business. Or, hey, we don't need Darren right now, but I tell you what, if we do, whether we have got an issue, Darren is a possible, support and create solution. And every time we do it, we get, I'd get probably 10 bookings out of a mail out. And the piece for me is just the ability to go, even if you don't do a booking for me, like it's just another way
Oh
for
no,
me to connect with my target market and say, don't forget about me.
we're losing your connection at the moment. I think your Wi-Fi. I think someone in your house must have turned on Netflix. Um, but we'll just keep padding this out. So I'm presuming, Darren, that you send the Dom Perignon and all the other things in the mail so that when they actually get your quote, they go, "Oh
Yep.
wow, he's not as expensive as we thought he was going to be." So
Yep.
this highly expensive invoice doesn't seem as expensive anymore.
Or relevant or related to the success that they've had with the new content that they've applied in their business relates to that, right?
Yes, well, I tell you what, I'm going to get a mail out and I'm going to send you a Category 6 Ethernet cable, and we're going to connect your computer to the Ethernet so that you've gone all blurry, mate. It's crazy. It's exposing the little trick that I've put in the background that I don't think you've noticed for the whole episode. We've been going for 53 minutes. Have you noticed anything different about your bookshelf?
Yes, I have. I saw that before. I, I actually must admit, because I did notice it from the perspective that I knew that shelf was empty. And
Yeah.
then when I'm sitting up there looking at it, I'm going, no, that's a bit weird because there's nothing in that shelf. And then I thought to myself, I know
Mm.
who's that. Yeah,
This is
good
a
on you.
little Easter egg for those who watch the show on YouTube. I have put my book. Darren has a bookshelf behind him. He's got an empty slot. I have put my book in the bookshelf, superimposed. You have to go to YouTube, have a look at this episode at the
Very
54-minute
clever.
mark. Here we go. For those who are watching, here you go. It's gone. There it is. There it's gone. There it is. He was so polite,
Uh,
Darren. You're back. Your Wi-Fi's back. We've got you back loud and clear
yeah.
now, and
No, we're good
looking
now.
sharp, which is good. Easter eggs are a big part of it. You got to have fun, and this is the thing when you call
Totally.
these people and when you connect with people, be human. Don't be serious all the time. That people are looking, they're looking for help, and for people who they work with can be fun and still get the results and be an enjoyable experience. I think that's probably one of the important pieces to say here when you're connecting with your customer. Make sure it's an enjoyable experience, because the reason they're meeting with you to begin with is that they've got some pain. So,
Yep. Absolutely.
try and remove it. Anything else to add?
I
We're
love it.
done.
This is so good, mate.
All right, let's run through the list
I
really
just
quick.
go, look, these days, the market is, the way the environment is, the ability for us to be able to connect with our customers now is so critical, right? We've got to be able to hold on to these relationships, and it's not all about the sales. So for me, this topic is just so important.
100%. So, number one, face to face. Number two, get on the phone. Number three, create video content so you can connect at scale. Number four, send messages, text messages, whatever. Just check in. Let them know that you're still around and you're still here to help. Get yourself an email newsletter. You can scale it. You can build connections. They can choose when they read it and when they do, but make sure you don't fall into the trap of being Captain Obvious or reporting news that's old.
Yep.
So when you do write your email, make sure that you write your email newsletter very close, if not immediately, to the point where you're going to send it out. It's got to be fresh. If it's not fresh, they ain't opening it, and it just becomes dead stock. You'll end up in the junk file. Number 6 is get going in the comments. All business nowadays starts, and really, you'll be surprised how much stuff gets done in the comments on social media. It all goes down in the comments.
Yep.
Number 7, look for events. Even if you have to scurf your way into one that you're not, that isn't for you, but your audience is there, go and meet people. Introduce yourself to them. It's Darren's secret tactic. He just slides in there and listens to all their problems, and then what do? Send them an email newsletter about a week later saying, here's this new program that fixes all these problems.
That's it.
Amazing. Imagine how that'd be like. It's almost like Facebook listening to you. How did they know? And then what was it up to? Number 8, get those mail outs going. Be different. Stand out in the market.
Yeah.
In regards to that, I mean, look, are you looking at a budget? Is there a minimum? Is there a formula to work it out, or are you just got to sit there and not be stingy or quirky? What is it? Is it price? Is it
just what's appropriate? What's appropriate? You think about it. It's just what value of your product versus value of the relationship with that particular customer. Recognize the value they are to your business, and as soon as you put those together, you're away.
So would it be 10% of a fee?
No, it's probably too much. Probably it doesn't need to be that much, because I mean, at the end of the day, all you're doing is wanting to create the connection, because ultimately number 1 was the way we wanted to get to, right, which is our ability to go face to face. So if you use this as a way of connecting, that's great, and maintaining a relationship, that's great, but you actually ultimately want to progress it to number 1, which is either get face to face or potentially number 2, just to be able to make the calls. It's a way of making life easier in that connection. So I wouldn't say there's a clear formula, because a lot of businesses would be very different.
And if you know your customers, you're going to know what are the quirky things that are going to really attract their attention and help them.
Yeah, 100%.
Things they're going to enjoy. All right, well, that was episode
very good
in season 2. If anyone is watching and wants to send a mail out to Darren, an Ethernet cable would be awesome. He'd really appreciate that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Anything like that. More than happy to give it a review.
Wow, what an episode. That was a banger. Absolutely love it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Of course, we're across all the top podcast platforms. Please leave a review if you feel inclined. We got some great feedback during the week about the podcast, particularly the episode with Pancho. But we've had also Tanzel was on last week. He was incredible. Talking about memory and brain. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and give it a little bit of a tickle and a comment. That'd be awesome. Otherwise, we'll see you in about a week. And it's been awesome. Peace.
Sounds good. Thanks, mate. See you soon, everybody. Take care.